Hi everyone, this is Professor Muldrow. What I'm going to do in this video is show you some of the basic structures in Python. Now here, what you're looking at is the way functions are defined in Python. We always start with the keyword def, D-E-F. That indicates that a function is going to be used. As you can see, I've created a function named main. Now that really isn't required in Python. As far as Python is concerned, main is just another function. There's nothing special or required about main. Programmers in Python still use it because they're used to using a main program. However, in Python, when you create a main function, you have to call it. As you can see, I am calling it down here at the end of my program. So in this main function, I'm asking the user to input a number between 1 and 100. As you can see, I'm using the input function. This is what you prompt the user to do to input a number. By default, the input function returns a string. If you want it to be any other type, you must convert it. I'm going to convert it to an integer. And then I'm going to call this function called even or odd to determine if the number that was entered is even or odd. That is within the print command. So let me show you now the even or odd function. Here it is. This function has a parameter. So my variable num in main, its value is sent to the parameter, which I have named the number. Here we have the use of an if-else statement in Python. So here we start with the keyword if, and here is my condition. And if it turns out that the number is even, I'm going to return this string printing out that the number is even. Converting the parameter to a string type and then concatenating it to the words is even. Similarly, if the number is odd, that's where the else comes from, convert the parameter to a string and concatenate with the text is odd. Of course, if you're going to have a value returning function, you must use the keyword return. Now, before I run this program, I'm going to show you how a for loop is used in Python. That's right here. Now, this is not the only way a for loop is done in Python, but it's the most common way. Instead of having a condition, we're going to use the keyword in and a built-in function named range. So we have for n, which is going to be my loop variable, in the range of 1 to 21. Now, what's important to understand about this range function is that it is inclusive on the left side. So 1 will be a valid value, but it's not inclusive on the right side. So even though this says range 1, 21, it will actually only go through the values 1 through 20. It will stop at 20 and not go to 21. And as you can see inside of this for loop, I'm printing the result of the even or odd function for each number in the range. Let me run this program and show you what we get. Now, when you create a Python program to run it the first time, you want to right-click inside the code window and select this selection, the one that says run with the play button attached to it. And here is my output window, so I'm being prompted to enter a number between 1 and 100. I'll type 64. That is definitely even. But now, as you can see, after the number I entered has been processed. Everything in this box is a result of the for loop. But notice, even though the range was 1 to 21, we started at 1 and only went to 20. Did not go to 21. That's how the range function works in Python. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you is how to use a while loop. Here's a while loop right here. So what I'm going to do here is call another function called that, which will determine if the number, the parameter, is positive, negative, or 0. Notice I'm starting my variable n at -3. And here's my while loop condition, while n is less than or equal to 4. So inside of this while loop, I'm doing two things. I'm calling the pos neg or 0 function, and then I will increment n by 1. And let's look at the function for that. Here it is. So as you can see, n, the variable in main, is passed to the parameter in this function, which is called the num. Now within this function, we have an if, elif, else statement. So if the num is less than 0, we print that it's negative. Elif is a way of saying else if. In Python, we just write it like this, elif, one word. If it's greater than 0, we print that it's positive. Else, meaning neither of those first two conditions were true, then it has to be a 0. Notice there are no return statements in this function. That makes this function a void function. It does not return a value. But we also do not use the word void anywhere in this function. The way Python creates a void function is you just don't have a return statement. And the output for this function is in this box. As you can see, we started with -3, obviously negative. Here is 0, and then the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 are all positive. And then, of course, after we process the 4, n is increased by 1, and our while loop condition is no longer true, and that's the end of the while loop. And that's also the end of the program. So here you have examples of value returning functions, void functions, if-else statements, for loops, and while loops in Python. If you have any questions, please send me an email at kmuldrow@lbcc.edu.